Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about my worst hospital experience ever. 3 years ago, I had this pain on my lower right side. At first, I didn't think anything of it because I had that pain before and I've been to the hospital for it before, and it turned out it was just a cyst, and I was also in that time of the month, so I figured, okay, that's what it is. Not a big deal. And all of a sudden, I fell to the ground and started screaming in agony. I couldn't move, I couldn't walk, and I started throwing up, and I had a fever. So then my grandparents hurried up and took me to the hospital. So they took me in a room right away because they figured it was my appendix. So the nurse came in, asked me a bunch of questions like they always do, asked me what I'm allergic to, and I made sure to tell her I'm allergic to codeine, I'm allergic to morphine, I can't have certain pain medications. She said it was already in the chart, so I figured, okay, everything is fine. So they gave me something called Dilaudid. I was fine with it. I had no issues, except I was a little loopy, but that's some of the side effects that come with pain medications. Other than that, I had no issues with it. So then they ran a bunch of tests, and they seen that my appendix was inflamed. They also took a blood test, and they seen that there was a little issue with my white cell count. Now, I don't know the medical terms for it, but they said that that happens when you have appendicitis. So they said that I had all the signs of appendicitis. So then they take me to the room upstairs, and the respiratory nurse comes in. She checks my vitals, she checks my lungs because I have asthma. They made sure I was breathing okay. Everything was fine. So then another nurse comes in to refill my IV. I thought it was the same medication I've been getting. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't ask what it was. As soon as she shoots it in my IV, I had this horrible burning feeling in my veins. 5 minutes later, I had this horrible pain in my chest, and it started from my chest and it shot down to my right arm. All of a sudden, I couldn't breathe at all, and I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest. My grandma called the nurse back in and said, what is going on? So then I turned to the nurse and I was like, what's happening? I'm like, I didn't feel like this before when I took Dilaudid. And she said, this isn't Dilaudid, this is morphine. And I said, I'm highly allergic to morphine. She was like, the doctor up here told me to give it to you. And I'm like, I can't take morphine. The respiratory nurse had to come back in. She's like, what happened? You were just fine a few minutes ago. And I'm like, they gave me the wrong medication. All I remember is just having like 10 nurses surrounding me, and my grandma thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna die. I was in this weird state. I seen this bright light that they had in my face, and then 10 nurses surrounding me. That's all I remember at that moment. The doctor that ordered the morphine came in and said, well, I decided to give you morphine because I thought it would help you better, and I didn't really believe that you were allergic to morphine because he said you have a lot of allergies on your list. I didn't believe that you could be allergic to all those things. He said, I just figured because you're anxious, it's just like anxiety or something. And I was like, no, that's not the issue here. The issue is the medications you're giving me are making me really jumpy. 2, I couldn't breathe. And 3, I am allergic to all that stuff. I am so allergic to so many different things to the point where I have to carry an EpiPen around everywhere I go. So then he said to me, well, I don't really believe it's appendicitis. And I was like, the doctor downstairs told me it was because they ran a bunch of tests. It wasn't a cyst. They took an ultrasound and my appendix was inflamed. 2, my white cell count was all over the place, and that's what they said happens with appendicitis. The number one thing is they seen my appendix was inflamed. That's what appendicitis is. So I'm like, okay, so if it's not my appendix, then what is it? And he goes, I don't know, a cyst? And I'm like, but they said there wasn't a cyst. They did many different tests, and they seen it wasn't that. I had 102 fever. I never had 102 fever with a cyst, and they said they didn't see a cyst, so obviously it wasn't a cyst. He was like, I just think it's your anxiety. So he's like, I'm just gonna give you anxiety medication. I was like, well, I don't take anxiety medication because my anxiety isn't even that bad to the point where I have to take medication. He was like, well, I'm gonna give you anxiety medication. I think it's your anxiety because you're really anxious. I almost died. You gave me medication I was allergic to. Of course I am gonna be anxious, and of course I was jumpy from the morphine. My anxiety isn't that bad. It doesn't interfere with my everyday life. But okay, if you wanna give me anxiety medication, I'll take it to make you happy. So he gave me anxiety medication. It made me emotionless. I felt like a robot on it. I was still in pain. He was like, you're still in pain. I'm like, yes, the anxiety medication isn't going to take the pain away. And he said, well, I'm going to have to order surgery and you're going to have it right away. Which confused me because he said it wasn't my appendix, so why would I all of a sudden go into emergency surgery? Which didn't make sense to me because doctors don't do surgery for no reason. I mean, it couldn't have been a cyst because they didn't see a cyst. There was no cyst there. They did multiple tests. All the tests came back that it was my appendix. So I'm wondering, why was this doctor all of a sudden denying that it was my appendix, but yet all of a sudden wanting to put me in emergency surgery for appendix, saying that they're gonna burst, but told me that it wasn't my appendix. So then I went into emergency surgery, and then I come back. Of course, I wasn't feeling better. Nobody's gonna feel 100% better after surgery, but when they ran the blood test and all that, my white blood count went back to normal, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't appendix. So I was up all night in pain. So then I finally fall asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning. So then all of a sudden this nurse comes in and tells me I have to get up, and I have to sit up, and I have to walk before I can go home that day. And I told her, okay, just give me a little bit. I just fell asleep. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, I don't care. You need to get up and you need to start walking right now. She's like, walking is good for you. It will make you feel better. And I understand, but at the same time, I just had surgery. 2, I was sitting up all night anyways, so I didn't see why I couldn't just lay down just for a little bit. She unhooked my IVs and she started to walk with me. I told her I had to go to the bathroom. Can I go to the restroom before I start walking? She said, no, you gotta walk first and then you can use the restroom. So keep in mind, I had all these fluids in me because of these IVs I had in me. And she said, no, you have to walk first and then you use the restroom. And I said, well, I really have to go. She's like, well, walk first, then you use the bathroom. I guess she didn't want me to use the restroom because she wanted to use that as a way to get me to walk, but I was gonna walk anyway as long as she was just gonna let me use the bathroom. But no, she wanted me to walk first. So we get halfway down the hallway and all of a sudden I'm like, I really gotta go. And she was like, let's walk the rest of the way and then you can use the restroom. Now there was no way I could hold it. I was like, if you don't let me go to the bathroom now, I'm gonna end up peeing on the floor. As a sarcastic remark, she goes, go ahead. Keep in mind, I still had anesthesia left in me. I had a rough night, almost dying from them giving me the wrong medications, and then I really ended up peeing on the floor. She got so mad. She handed my grandma the towel and she's like, here, you clean it up. She's like, I'm not gonna clean it up. And my grandma was like, what do you mean you're not gonna clean it up? You're the nurse. You're supposed to clean it up. She's like, I'm not doing it. She doesn't even take me back to the room. She just walks off and leaves me. So then my grandma had to clean it up and my grandma had to take me back to the room. So then 25 minutes later, she comes back and I asked her when I was getting my papers to go home because I was supposed to go home that day. And she was like, no, you're not going home today. She wasn't going to give me my papers to go home. So then my grandma went up to the front desk and asked the other nurse if I was going home that day. And she said, yeah. She wasn't going to give me my papers to go home. So then my grandma told the front desk and we switched nurses and I got to go home. So anyway, guys, that was my worst hospital experience ever. Have you guys ever had any really bad hospital experiences or doctor experiences? Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell at the top of my page so you don't miss a new video. Bye!